On this episode of Pints and Pizza with Professors, we're talking all things money, money, money. Jason and I are sharing the worst jobs we've ever had, the jobs we've learned from the most as it relates to our careers, how you can start a side hustle from your dorm room, and why not getting your dream job could be the very best thing for your career. It's all coming up on this episode of Pints and Pizza with Professors.
Welcome to Pints and Pizza with Professors, a podcast dedicated to help you, the college student, crush it in the classroom and in your careers.
We're just two college professors with an obsession for learning and a great slice of pie, throwing out no BS truth bombs to help guide you through the unknown.
We also celebrate the ideas and talents of emerging professionals and embrace the learning culture of now.
We're all adults having adult conversations, so adult language might be used.
Hey, grab a slice of pie, grab a pint, and let's go shoot the ish.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Pints and Pizza with Professors. We are talking all things money today. Show me the money. We're going all Jerry Maguire. And Jason and I will be talking about working by learning and learning by working, even if the job flat out sucks. So I'd like to give a warm hello to my friend and co-host, Jason. How are you today, my friend?
I am doing wonderfully. I was hoping to have the OJs, money, 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 money,
Yeah.
behind us. But unfortunately, that we don't have the rights to use it. So,
Or the
darn it.
budget to get the rights.
You know what? Who is in charge of the budget for this show?
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, man. And especially, of all things, the money episode, right?
Yeah, right. Perfect. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
if you don't have the money, how can you do this stuff? Well, that's why we call it podcasting on a budget,
Right. Exactly. It's the beauty of content creation. We
That's
can
right.
put together things like this on a shoestring budget, and it is beautiful. So today we are talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. So Jason and I, if you've listened to episode 1, which if you haven't done so already, pause this episode, go back, listen to episode 1 because you learn all about us. We've also got 2 bonus episodes that focus on each of us to get to know us a little bit better. So you can listen to those as well. But we've had a very dynamic rise, fall, roller coaster in our careers. And a lot of what we have done along the way in terms of crappy jobs, in terms of failures, have kind of made us into the professionals we are today. So, Jason,
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you were either growing up or in college or right after college, what is the worst job you ever had?
Wow. I don't want to sound all rainbows and roses. I had some really good jobs, but I would say the one that didn't have the most appeal to me was when I worked at a pharmacy when I had my senior year of high school and into my freshman year of college. I worked there, and it wasn't so much the job itself; it was what I needed to do. I had to make suppositories.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. And that
Wow.
now,
Wow. You're the first person I've ever met that has actually made suppositories by hand. That's impressive.
And you put them in a mold, and it's all. But I mean, it wasn't fun. Especially not like the ingredients were. I had to know the ingredients. The ingredients were put together. I just had to put it in the mold, obviously, and we don't need to go any further from that. But while it taught me that you have to be as a young kid, you have to be ready to be at work and have a responsibility. That wasn't the most fun. And then I was doing deliveries for the pharmacy. Obviously, this is in the days before obviously the CVSs or the Rite Aids of the world, or you could go to your store and have a 24-hour pharmacy. But so we would deliver, and I had the van. This was big, it was a van you could put people in, and I'm
Mhm.
driving this into retirement communities, and I drop it off, and oh, okay, here you go, and I'd get 10 cents for dropping it off. It's like,
Oh,
so it's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
thank you. I get a quarter, and if I was really lucky, I'd get $1, and I was like, I've got it made. And here
Yeah.
I am, 18 years old, and thinking, wow, I got $1 for a tip.
Mhm.
Again, not complaining. It's just, but that was probably the worst job I ever had. I know there are bad ones, but that
Mhm.
would probably be the worst one I've ever had. What about you? What's the one that you had, or maybe more than one that you had?
Well, I must say that I started working really early on, and I would babysit, and those jobs are fine, especially
Right.
if the kids were good. And I must say, like, the very first boss, air quote boss that I ever had was my dad, and
Oh.
he owned an insurance agency, in our hometown.
Hmm.
And I was probably about 11, and I mowed his grass at the office. I mowed it at home too, but I didn't get paid to do that.
Yeah.
But and it's not that working for my dad was a bad thing, but I remember lugging that stupid lawnmower up in the hot Indiana summers from our house. That was
Yeah.
awful.
That's
And
not
then no, it's not, but it taught me work ethic early on.
fun. Hmm.
And now and then also a job that I had that I didn't necessarily care for, but I learned a lot from, which we'll get into in a minute, but I was a pool and spa water tester. So
Oh,
people would bring in their nasty ass samples of pool water and spa, and it's like cloudy and green and disgusting. And so I would test their pool water, and then based on the readings of, the sample, then they would pick up, more chlorine or
right.
more, bromine or whatever it is to clear it up or get the nasty green stuff out of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, yeah, so I would say those two were not so great. They
The
were interesting.
the pool water tester though could be kind of, I mean, having I've had pools over the years. When we grew up, we were lucky enough to have one in our backyard, and then when Michelle and I got married, we had one in our home before we moved here to the DC area. And eh, that experience in itself is just, it can be a real pain. I get it, because
Mhm.
you get everyone's pool water, and they always think, oh, I put a right amount of chlorine in there, or I did, oh no, I've been keeping up with it, and that they
Mhm.
just want to jump in and not.
Liars.
Yeah, the filter doesn't work, or they don't clean
Mhm.
the filter, they don't clean anything out, and you get this. But then again, I it's a job that at least there, I would think, even though you're not necessarily excited about it, you could really have some pretty decent fun with in many ways. I would hope you did, at least
Man.
kind of testing the chlorine in some ways.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I felt like a little chemist sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah, especially whenever, this, woman would come in, and, it was right before we closed too. Like
Oh, it
right
never fails.
before. And I
Yeah.
hate that. I was like, it's like, what are you doing, sis? Like we're getting ready to leave for the day. And it was, she brought in her nasty water and then questioned everything. They're like, do I really need this? It's like, yeah, because you didn't keep up with your shit. Come on.
Right. You do
So
need
yeah.
it. Let's go. You know, get a tub of chlorine, learn how to put it in, or get
Yeah.
someone to put it in for you, and then get out. Let's go. We're closing.
Exactly. It was
Great
crazy.
customer service tip there. Yeah. Tell everyone to get out because you're closing. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Uh, so fast forward a little bit. Tell me about a job that you learned the most from while you're in college, or maybe right after you got out of college. Doesn't necessarily need to be the most glamorous job,
Mhm.
but the one that you learned from the most.
Well, I have no problem. This is very, very easy for me, and I have no problem crediting a good family friend and someone I worked for a long time. His name is Larry Litwin. Um, he ran a store. Long story short, I had known Larry from his days as coaching in Little League. I was umpiring, knew his kids from school, but in he opened up a sporting goods store, and it was called Hello Sports Fans. And in Cherry Hill, and no joke, it was the most popular place to go to get your Flyers jerseys, hats, I mean, we had minor league hats there that you would not think. We had the Bisons at one time. We had,
Really?
oh yeah,
Interesting.
and that's how I learned about the minor league teams. So when we
Yeah.
moved to Buffalo, obviously, and before when I had finally got married to my wife Michelle, I knew about the Bisons. So I was like, oh, and then ironically one day I end up working with them. So, uh, but then anyway, so the Trenton Thunder, and we learned all about. I learned all about these teams, but then we also had hockey jerseys, football jerseys, if a team made a change. So anyway, that I learned so much from that job and from Mr. Litwin because he was also a PR and marketing person. He was also a veteran radio person in the Philadelphia area at KYW News Radio. And not only did I learn about broadcasting from him and some of the tips, and he also gave me some great people to talk to and some insights aside from himself, but it was being in that store that taught me about the value of dealing with and interacting with people. In retail, you're not always getting the nicest people in the world. I remember one or two times.
No?
I
Retail is
know.
awesome,
Oh,
Jason.
I
What are you
know.
talking about?
Right. The great thing though, and I know this it sounds like I'm trying to get the positive out of it, but I am, is I learned so much for how to understand people a lot better from the human side of things. And so that way, as I was in broadcasting and then got into public relations, I still use what I learned at that sporting goods store to this day, as far as being able to relate to people, listening to their problems, listening to how you can help solve something. We would end up dealing with, customers that would be wanting a jersey for their son's birthday that was a week later. And okay, we're going to have to put a rush job on it. So we'll do our best. Let's call the people that did the lettering and see if they could do it. If they can't, how can we make it work? All right, we'll give you the jersey and then come back and we'll get that lettered ASAP. So it's
Mhm.
like you're dealing with things. And frankly, it was also understanding how the industry worked, as far as like Starter at the time was doing hockey jerseys and Champion was doing some football jerseys, but it was also Adidas and Nike. So you'd see how the jerseys would change and why now it's like this big secret. But even then it was more like, hey, we want people to know that it's coming. This is what
Mhm.
the logo looks like. This is what the colors are. It was really, really exciting because we would be often the first people to have these jerseys. The team stores weren't what they were now. So
Mhm.
that was what that's the one I learned from while I was in college. And right around the end of college, I learned a lot from my internships, I guess it would be. I would say job wise, it was my internship at NBC 10 in Philadelphia, but I learned a lot by working with the Phillies. Because it taught me about pressure under circumstances, making sure you're listening again to the fans and listening to the people that are around you. So I would say the job with the Phillies, as far as right before I graduated college, but then definitely Hello Sports Fans when I was, right out of high school and then in starting college, were the two that I learned a ton from the most. It also shows that you don't necessarily have to work in the specific career that you are going for in a job or an internship. You can learn a lot from something that may not be in your career field.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And you, what about you?
Oh, man. So, okay, so when I was in college, I was hired by the Indiana State University Office of Public Affairs,
Mm,
and I was a student worker there for 4 years, and that was a cool job. It was just fun because there was just something you got to participate in things that I guess the regular students didn't get to. Like you
right.
got to like they did the university did a big ad campaign while I was there. I believe it was my senior year, and they were looking for extras to be in the photo shoots and stuff. So I got to be an extra and get to it was really really cool to get to see like kind of all of that come together. But I will say because I was not a communications student. I was in the College of Business, which at the time it's kind of like separation of church and state. Like,
Hmm.
if you're a comm student or you're a business student, like you don't take the same classes. But I will say it was my sophomore year, and I was working in the office. And little known fact that Terre Haute, Indiana, um, was the place where Timothy McVeigh was executed.
Oh, that's right.
So all of the major national networks came calling to Indiana State wanting bodies like to work. One of the
Right.
like the gophers, like the runners,
Yeah.
whatever we were called back then. So all of those or most of those jobs went to communication students. However, because I worked in the Office of Public Affairs, they submitted names of their student workers, and I was one of them. So I actually got to work for NBC News during that
Wow.
thing, horrible thing that
Right.
happened,
Right.
but the grim thing that happened. And that was an incredible experience from a PR and news perspective, because again, I was a business major. I wasn't in communications,
Right.
but I feel like because I was part of the public affairs office, I that segmented into this other experience that I never would have had I not had that job. So it was kind of like the domino effect.
Right.
And the things I learned from being a runner at NBC News was just astounding. It really, I think I was 19 at the time, and the first of all, the amount of money that was spent on-site news production is absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
Like, we were going every day and buying stuff from like Lowe's or just getting food. I mean, it was absolutely bananas how much money that networks spend, which again, the news itself was grim, but it also stimulated the local economy.
Right.
So you have to kind of think about it in that perspective. So that to me was an incredible learning experience that I wouldn't have had I not been part of that campus office. So those two experiences in itself were just amazing. Then I must say, right after college, I didn't have a job, which we'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress in this episode.
Uh-huh.
But I did not have a job in marketing right out of college.
Wow.
So what I did, yeah, it was scary. I was like, "Oh god, what am I gonna do?" Like, "Oh man, I have to actually go make my own money. That sucks."
Oh man.
Um, so so what ended up happening is one of my closest friends in college was already living in Indianapolis,
Uh-huh.
and I subletted a portion of that apartment, and I took a job as a waitress at Chili's. And I must say, I would have never thought that that waitressing experience would have taught me as much as what it did,
Hmm.
because I did get to meet other people that I normally wouldn't have met had I been in marketing or worked for a big company or whatnot. So just the people that I became friends with at Chili's was really we had a really fun summer that summer.
Right.
It
Right.
was great, and it did teach me about sales, and it did teach me like I won a margarita contest. I was so proud of myself. I was like, yeah. So it did teach you about sales and about making sure you listen to get an order right. I had to learn that very quickly because I was screwing up orders left and right,
Hmm.
and that's never a fun thing
No,
to
that's
do.
really not.
So, yeah. I say that really got me out of the, I guess, bubble that I kind of put myself in, or the box I put myself in.
Okay.
And then I was able to go out and do something entirely different. And, the hours weren't fun. The tips were really horrible at times. But I must say, it humbles you, because now I always make sure I tip well if we get a good server.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's just a given. Like, you have to. So it makes me appreciate that perspective. And, and again, it was not something I ever thought I would do, but I'm really glad I did it. Looking back, it was kind of a pain at the time, but now I look back and like, yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. So
Yeah, it does, and I
yeah,
mean,
that's
and the fact, and going back, not just kind of skipping over, waitressing, but um, the Timothy McVeigh trial, and obviously all the execution. I mean, that's something where you really do get to know the inner workings of a news operation and a remote news
oh
operation. Because
yeah.
I mean, it's still to this day, it's a little different with digital and how things, but you still have people running out of, like, if you see a Supreme Court ruling, I mean, knowing I'm having gone to Temple, I follow their pages still, and you see, oh, did you see this student? She's a Temple update. She works on Temple update during the semester or something, and she was a runner for NBC or something along those lines during a
Mhm.
big hearing. So that is a huge job to have. I mean, you think about it.
Mhm.
So and talk about really understanding and getting a chance to be, and unfortunately it's at a morbid event, but the fact that you were part of that kind of that event is, while
Mhm.
it's a somber thing, it's still a something that people remember even to this day. If you mention Timothy McVeigh, you're
Mhm.
going to get that sort of, you'll get a reaction from people saying, oh, and frankly, even in, where we've been in Western New York, I mean, he's from Western New York, he
Mhm.
was,
Full
yeah,
circle. I could not believe that.
I know.
Yeah, and actually in when I was in grad school, uh, I think it was the PR class I was taking, the reporter that covered the trial, like everything from start to finish, he came to speak to my class, and I was like, "Oh my god, were you in Terre Haute, Indiana in
Uh-huh.
2001?" And he was like, "I was." I was like, "Me
Yeah.
too." And everybody was like looking at us like we're so weird, like,
No, I
what's
mean,
going on? But you're right. It all comes full circle. It was very odd. And again, like I kind of did like the grunt work. My services were needed, but not like super duper
right,
important.
right.
Like, oh, go to Blimpies and get lunch,
Yeah.
Megan. I mean, everybody's got to eat, but I remember there were two of McVeigh's attorneys that I had to drive into like a certain place or drive to the hotel or wherever because they were doing interviews and they're like, well, I need a ride back. And I got to drive two of his attorneys. And the one thing I remember, I don't know if you remember the name Nathan Chambers. He was one of McVeigh's
Sounds
attorneys.
familiar.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I actually drove him. Turns out he was from Southern Indiana. I had family in Southern Indiana, and he was the
Oh,
nicest
wow.
guy. I mean, you would think that he would be in a terrible mood because his, client's getting ready to,
Right. Yeah.
die. And he was just the nicest guy. I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." So, anyway, it was just a really great experience. And again, it's about kind of taking those like taking a different path because I didn't have to take the job at the public affairs office. I wanted to, and I did, and it was a nice flexible job, and that eventually led me into my gig at NBC
Yeah.
News. So it's kind of taking like the path less traveled.
And
So
your
it was
work
great.
and your efforts spoke volumes to people because, frankly, you wouldn't have had that opportunity if you didn't work as hard as you did while you were in school. That I think that comes to the point where why no job is meaningless in a lot of ways.
No. No, it's not. It's not. You can take the crappiest job, like making
Yeah.
suppositories or cutting grass in 90% humidity in southern Indiana. You can take like the worst jobs and they're all going to mean something. They're all going to have an impact on you as a person and as a professional. So, if there are students listening to this and, they're working at some job that's not glamorous, it's not in
No.
vain. Like, no, I mean, yes, you get a paycheck, of course, but the experience that you'll come away with, it's not for nothing. And you will learn something from it, whether it be, if you're a server, okay, well, whenever you're making better money down the road, you're going to learn that you need to tip well because you understand where that server is coming from and where their money is
Right.
coming from, which is the majority is tips. So you're going to learn that I don't have an analogy for making suppositories, Jason. You're gonna have to help me out what you learned from that. But no job is meaningless. It's all for something. And whether it's whether you're actually learning a skill or you're just learning humility and learning a life lesson, it's
No,
never
and I
in
like
vain.
that. I like how you said that. I mean, what would you learn from making suppositories? Well, I will say that, at the end of the day for me, it was looking back now, it's saying, all right, you know what? I didn't have any leg to stand on. What am I going to do? Say I'm above this? No, I'm not. So you learn from each experience. I did know going into when I started to work more jobs related to what I wanted to do. And this, when I worked at that job before I worked at the sporting goods store that I mentioned, Hello Sports Fans, and it taught me that, hey, if I'm going to work somewhere, I want to do the best I can to work at places that I know are going to, A, I'm going to hopefully enjoy, and B, have a chance to learn something from. And I will come
Mm-hmm.
back to, in many ways, and I've mentioned this to people, especially students, when it comes down, ones that are in school or just graduating or have graduated. My wife, when she went for her nursing degree, before she could take the test again, she had to take a part-time job at the Gap. We were dating at the time. It wasn't something she wanted to do, but she embraced it. And frankly, she learned a lot from it. Sure, it's retail. You don't exactly enjoy retail, but I'll be honest with you, the perks were great. You get a discount on the clothing. You get a chance to work. She was working on the Upper East Side, near where we lived. All of those things got her to appreciate the fact that she was now going to work even that much harder to pass the exam. And when she did, she didn't just
Mm-hmm.
go into the Gap and say, "I'm out later," and do the old, JetBlue down the, extend the emergency exit and say, "See you, peeps." She went in and said,
Yeah.
"Look, I've got accepted for a job. I accepted a job at a hospital. I'm not going to be able to work here anymore. And they were all very, very thrilled for her. But
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to, and she also learned even more about relating to your coworkers and employees, no matter whether it was the security guard or whether it was the person as you were locking up, they were coming to clean, and maybe you didn't have to worry about cleaning up the racks that night. You still learned appreciation. So that's why I think, in many ways, learned from my wife's experiences and from my experiences, that no matter what you're doing at your job, nothing about it should be meaningless. And if you don't look for those little aha moments or those little bits of, okay, this may not be the ultimate job for me, but I'm going to take something away from it. And that's where you can really learn things.
So if you're in school, whether you're undergrad, grad, whatever level that you're at, let's face it, you still need money, right? You still
Hmm.
have to live. Even though school, like in my house, my parents always told my brother and I, school is your job. They said,
Yeah,
school is your job. You have to, do well in your classes. Like that is your number one priority. However, I mean, you still need money to, whether you're putting yourself through school, you have car payments, insurance, your cell phone. I mean, we still need money, right?
right,
So while you're in school, it's in the internet absolutely blows my mind these days because you can make money without a lot of effort on the internet. And I say this because when I started Bungalow Sam, um my e-com store, I started on Etsy, and with extremely little effort, I made like 5 grand in sales. That's excluding like my product
right.
costs, but
Hmm.
that's with no like very 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 little effort. so so even if you spend a couple hours on you know Friday morning or whenever, there is a side hustle that you can set up online to do. My side, I mean, at the time we had the internet in college, but
Of
it was
course.
very a lot, not a lot of regular people money was being made. They had the big tech companies, they had a lot of stuff like that. So my side hustle in college, obviously I had my schoolwork. I had my job on campus at the public affairs office, which that was great because I was very flexible. It was, the office was open 9 to 5, Monday through Fridays, and I worked whenever I had a break in my classes, or they scheduled me to fit my schedule, and it was great. And then the other side hustle I actually had 2 jobs in college. The other side hustle I was a volleyball referee.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and I worked evenings and weekends, and that, I tell you, anytime you can ref a sport, that's good money.
Oh, it
And a lot
is.
of times they pay in cash. So
Yeah.
so that was an awesome experience that I had, cuz I played volleyball in high school, and I played on an intramural league in college, and that was my way of kind of staying in the sport beyond my playing years. And so there's all kinds of really creative side hustles that you as a student can get into whenever you are, you know, still in school and making your job a priority, or making your schoolwork a priority, but you still need money, right?
Right.
So, did you have a side hustle in college, Jason?
Um, I would say the closest thing I had to a side hustle was doing a little voiceover work here and there.
Yeah.
I when I was in college, because I would cover some games, there would be times where the PR person of the team I was covering, it happened in hockey a few times where the opposing team would need a kind of like a not a runner, but they would need like an eye in the sky where you could say, all right, how many shots on goal were in the period? How many quality shots would you say?
Mhm.
Things like that. So I was keeping track of those because obviously you didn't have I believe at the time the NHL wasn't tracking sort of quality shots. They were tracking shots on goal, but the broadcast needed it faster than the NHL was providing it.
Mhm.
Obviously, you weren't getting it electronically that much. So those would some would be the side hustle. But you know what? Really, I didn't have much of a, you know, side hustle per se as like another job on the side. I mean, I was working when I was in college. I would still pick up some hours here and there, doing at the sporting goods store. So I guess in college I didn't have a side hustle at all. It wasn't until I got out of school and was working that did more blogging and tried to do more guest blogging on places. So, but I would say the things that I find from people as far as doing side hustles are, and I see it a lot is, you're a campus rep for a particular brand. I know campuses sometimes have those they'll have, whether it be an eater account or so you're connected some way to a major, and they have like a college rep on campus or something like
Mhm.
that.
Like a brand
Those
ambassador or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So while I didn't do the traditional side hustle like people know it today, there are plenty of opportunities now, and frankly, I think a lot of people see having the opportunity, especially in comms and PR and marketing, is to try to find your way to be a consultant or try
Mhm.
to find your way to be a freelancer so you can get extra work.
Mhm.
I
And
tried that. I tried that and found some success with it.
And there are so many work for hire sites out there. There's Upwork, there's Fiverr, Envato Studios that you can just, if you love to, use Instagram for business, and there is a difference. There's a difference between using Instagram for personal and Instagram for businesses. So I'm just going to preface by saying that. But if you have, if your family has a business and took over their Instagram account and, ran it like a business, you can do that for other people as well, or
Yeah.
other businesses as well. So really, if you're thinking about either starting a side hustle, work for hire service, or any kind of like Jason said, a consultant service, I mean, those work for hire sites are amazing, and it really gives you um, a nice big audience, because businesses from all over, not just the country, but all over the world, look at these sites, and that's something you can run out of your dorm room, or your apartment, or wherever. So
Yeah, and the great thing about that too, and it's not to make it seem like it's the easiest thing in the world. When I was working for an agency, I had my idea started for running my own consultancy. So that's why when I got let go from or can let go from my job in Buffalo, I was able to then transition. Not it wasn't easy, but I was able to transition into consulting because I already picked up, like, I had two side clients already that I was working with. So it made it easier for me to really get into consulting or freelancing
mhm,
and obviously making connections. So, and I also would say this, when it comes to that sort of side hustle, this is a great time to make sure you get to learn and get to know more people, learn different skills, know what these other people are doing out there. If you're looking to be a digital and social media consultant, understand what the platforms are. You don't have to have an account with a Meltwater or a Brand Watch, but you can understand Hootsuite. You can
Mhm.
understand HubSpot. You can understand what there are so many great free tools out there. Understand those in PR. See if Cision has if you have a membership with a professional organization, even though you may not be working, or if you are, take the time to do those events so that way you can learn what the industry is doing. Read as much as you can so that way when you are on that side hustle, you are the person people are going to be looking for right away to say, oh, they may follow you on Twitter and say, wow, I didn't realize they were doing that. They shoot you a message and you could end up getting a job from it.
Mhm.
So make sure that when you're doing that side hustle, like you said, you can run your friend's Instagram account all you want, but you need to understand the business applications and implications of that. You can't just do it as hey, we're going to have some fun. Just like you said with Bungalow Sam. It was a little bit of a side hustle at first, but then it became a professional, it became a business venture. And
Mhm.
that's where the transition happened. So while your side hustle can be something you enjoy doing, if you really enjoy it, you want to make a business out of it, you have to remove that sort of side hustle mentality and say, all right, I'm going for this. Now it has to be a hustle.
Right, absolutely. And I just want to take a minute and for our listeners, if you like what you hear, press the pause button right now and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, or you think somebody who could benefit from what Jason and I are talking about. So again, if you like what you hear, hit the pause button right now, share this episode with somebody who could really benefit from what we're talking about today, and share the good word. Share the good
Share
word.
and share alike.
I
Don't hold back. Share it with
Yeah.
someone you know.
So once we talk about getting out of or earning our undergrad degree, we're out in the world and maybe you've got a job right away. If you do, congratulations. And
That's right.
if not, congratulations because you have a new challenge upon you right now. So, taking a not so dream job after you graduate, it can be the best thing for your career, right? In terms of learning, in terms of learning new skills, meeting new people. And, like I told you the story about when I was waitressing, that was not my dream job. Like, again, I never thought that I would be in the service industry or wait tables or anything like that. Not saying I was above it, but just that's not what I had thought would be my path once I earned my degree. So once you get out of school and you don't have that dream job, that's okay. It's okay. You're not supposed to be 22 and have your dream job because your dream job will change. Am I right?
That's right. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Um, I was looking for not so dream jobs when I was in school, in a sense that I knew I would have to go to a smaller market to be successful if I were going to be on air. So you're not going to start. While there are a lot of people today that end up starting in a big market, it doesn't happen for everybody. I follow many people from when I graduated Temple, or even those that have just recently graduated. They're starting in smaller markets, and even in public relations too. I mean, you would think, oh man, if I go to Indiana State, do I have to stay in Indiana? No, but it may not be a bad idea to stay around for a little while and take a job that you may not necessarily want in the long run. And
Mhm.
that I actually say, I've actually been talking to a number of professionals about this and also students, and saying it's sort of like you have to have this glee attitude. And I don't mean the show glee. I mean grow, learn, and evolve.
Mhm.
And those three words can mean so much for you if you're not in a job you necessarily want right away. Because take the time in that first job or that second job and say, how can I grow? What do I need to do to grow? How can I learn from what I'm doing now? And then help yourself evolve to the place where, okay, now I can try to find that job that I really, really want. Look,
Mhm.
you and I both, I mean, we're doing what we want to do right now. If you
Yeah.
told us at 19, 20, 21 that, okay, in 2019, you're going to be you're going to run your own marketing shop, you're going to be living in Toronto, but you're also going to be teaching online, you would probably say, whoa, slow down a second. Where the heck are you coming from here? You know,
Forget the fact that, oh, you're going to co-host a podcast with some dude from Jersey about.
right. I mean, and
I
that
would
would have
have
been
called
the
you
scary thing for me.
crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, jeez, those Jersey people, I'll tell you.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that just an awesome world we live in? It's
But
fantastic.
that's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
we're really looking back, and I say this all the time to students, professionals. I said, if you told me when I graduated Temple University that I wouldn't be in TV, I wouldn't be producing, I would be working in public relations and teaching, I would have said, first of all, I want nothing to do in teaching at all. I just
Mhm.
graduated college. I barely got out. I
Yeah.
don't want to go. I don't want to see the inside of a university unless I'm guest speaking. And
Right.
then, oh, what do you mean I'm not in television? I want to be working. I want to be doing television. I want to be doing sports, whatever. Well, you know what? That was my dream then, and essentially, I took one or two not so dream jobs when I got into PR. I thought this is great. I can work and learn something, but it turned out not to be that dream job, and that my second job in PR wasn't my dream
Mhm.
job. It wasn't until I got let go that I ended up doing what I see now is my second half of my life stream, which is to be able to work for myself and work in doing things that I know will not only help me but help the future. And
Mhm.
that's how things evolve. We all I think we harken back to looking at how our parents were. My
Mhm.
dad worked at the same place for nearly 30 years, a little over 30 years. And he
Mhm.
liked his job. He didn't hate it. I mean, did he want to get up every day to go? No. But I mean, he was a very hard worker. I learned a lot from him and
Mhm.
from my grandmother as well. But for my dad, I don't think if I said to him, "Was that your dream job?" I don't think he would have said yes. But
Mhm.
he did it because he was supporting his family. He was doing something that he at least liked at the time. But I'm sure with your parents, in some way, it wasn't their dream jobs to do what they were doing,
Mhm.
but it was something that they felt was important to support a family.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, so my mom, she was a special education teacher for 40 plus years, something like that. And she just retired a few years ago, and she's in retirement heaven. She she loves it. And but that was her gift. My mom is a saint. I will be the first one to say my mother is a saint. She was an extremely patient person, very giving, very kind person. And did she love all the aspects of her job? Of course not. But that was her calling. That was her gift. And my dad, on the other hand, he was a business owner. So he owned an insurance agency for 25 years. And then, I mean, he had a career change in his 50s, and he sold his agency. He wasn't happy running it anymore, and he sold it, and he started a new business in his 50s. And to me, I was like, wow, that's risky, because I was in college, my brother was in high school, and but he just wasn't happy. And I think that kind of comes down to like this whole notion of a dream job. Like, the dream job that you have in your mind may make you happy in your mind, but is it really going to make you happy in reality? And I give major credit to my dad for taking that risk and starting another business, which now he's a real estate appraiser, and he's moved his business once. He started in southern Indiana, and now he and my mom live in Indy, and business is booming, and he's doing great. And but I'm sure when he got out of school, he wasn't like, I'm going to be a real estate appraiser. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, nobody says that. And I think it goes back to the fact that when you are getting out of school, whether it be you're 22 or 25 or whatever age, it's okay to not have everything figured out. It's okay to have an idea of what you want, but just to have it set in stone isn't realistic, because as you evolve as a person and as a professional, your idea of a dream, anything, is going to change. Your idea of a dream is going to change. Let's be honest. Like, whether it's a life or a career, it's going to change. And that is 100% okay.
And that's the thing too, is if you're ready to understand, and you're willing to understand that this does not have to be your forever, you should be in the present,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
Don't
Absolutely.
start thinking. I always say, don't start thinking about your next job while you're in your current job, because that will prevent you from really learning what you need to do to get better. I
Mhm.
can say that for I listened to some people sometimes when I was younger, especially when I was looking in the media, that, okay, once you get that first job, you have to be looking then 6 months. You have to start thinking it once you're there 6 months, thinking about that next job. Well, yeah, when I was at my job, was I always thinking about the next one? No, but I started putting tapes together and trying to do things that would allow me to hopefully get on air, and I'd get
Mhm.
interviews. But I think in some ways, because I had something that I thought was going to be a dream job of being on air, it prevented me from being the best I could have been at that particular. Didn't mean I gave any less effort, but it probably prevented me from doing things a little bit better than I could have done. So,
Mhm.
just remember that, like you said, I mean, you can work in one industry for a while, it may not be your dream job, but then when you realize that you can do something more and maybe even be better at it, that can be the dream. And the dream does not have to be the, this is great. Oh, it's going to be a Hollywood story. It's great because I'm happy, my significant other is happy, and my children, my family are happy. And that's something that can be a dream. If you're in school or you're about to graduate or you're currently in school, the thing is like, don't look at that job. I want to definitely work in the fashion industry, or I want to work in, I want to be working for X agency. That's great. You can have those aspirations. I'm not going to tell you not to, but you need to make sure you temper it, because if you have these high expectations and you think you're going to be getting this job that you want or you think you deserve, it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen for everybody. We've all been lucky in our careers, but you make your own luck. You make your
Mhm.
own path. And even though there are bumps along the way, you're the one that's on it. And it's how
Mhm.
you're going to adjust along the way uh, to make it down that road. And I can tell you from a number of students that I've talked to over the last number of years, especially ones that have been in my classes at American University, some of them have never gotten their dream jobs. Some of them are working at jobs that they never thought they would end up being in. And
Mhm.
I know one student who I had a number of conversations with over the years, and she ended up working. She ended up working in news, but she never. I don't think she ever expected to be working in news. She's not on air, but I don't think she ever expected to be working in that position. She's doing great. She's making a career for herself, not because she didn't want it to be a career, but because she embraced it. And I really think that's the thing you have to understand. You don't have to embrace your dream of what the ultimate dream is. You have to embrace your vision of what you're doing right now. Because if you don't, it's going to prevent you from learning, and it's going to prevent you from working the best that you can.
Right. And especially, I also want to emphasize a point that you don't have to wait until you get out of school to discover your hidden potentials either. If you like making jewelry, you can make jewelry out of your dorm room and sell it online.
That's right.
Like you can start if you want to venture into entrepreneurship and you want to create a course on painting or how to make jewelry, or if you have a skill or a talent to share, you can do that now and make that your side hustle. So, if obviously, if you want a more professional position with a company and that's what you want to do, by all means, go for it. But I think college students, at least this is from my perspective, I feel like college students think that they have to wait to start making an impact on their careers. You have to
Hmm.
wait to get that diploma. You have to wait to get that internship. That's not the case. If you, let's say you're a sports person and you follow NBA, NBA basketball, you can start blogging about NBA basketball. You can start a podcast about NBA basketball. You can start creating this content about NBA basketball. And then if the Pacers have a job opening, then they can see like, wow, they did, this person, blogged, he did videos, he did a podcast. Wow, that would be really impressive to have him or her join our content team. I mean, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it just the internet is a freaking game changer for content creation and things like that. So you do not have to wait to have your degree in marketing or communications or sports management, whatever it may be, to get a job with the Pacers or
That's right.
Raptors or
Yeah.
Raptors. I'm hoping Raptors, because then I'm going to call you and I'm going to ask for tickets. So, but you know what I
Wow. I
mean?
mean,
So yeah. So if you're a fashion student and you love a certain designer, let's say Jason Wu,
okay.
if you love Jason Wu, uh, fashion and clothing, you can write a blog about Jason Wu designs. You can do a podcast. You can do YouTube channel. I mean, there's all this amazing potential that the internet has created for people of all ages. You've got kids who are 7 years old creating YouTube channels. I mean, and they're making money at it. Like there's one story I read about. There was a kid that was making slime, and they were teaching people how to make slime, and now they're selling it. And they're like making probably more money than you and I combined, Jason. So like, you know what I mean? Like that just blows my mind about how this platform can completely change people's futures and change perspectives on what side hustle is and what making money is and what having a career is. And it's just fun. It's just fantastic. I mean, you and I have a podcast. We're not even in the same country,
No.
and we're and we're creating this podcast. So if we can do it from two different countries, one person can do it sitting in their basement at home
Right.
or sitting in their dorm room.
There's a reason why it's called being a what's a reason Let me start that again. There's a reason why it's called a hustle.
Right.
You have to move. You have to want to do it. I mean, you have to bust it to make it happen. And
Mhm.
if you're going to look, we all get times in our lives and in our careers where we bottom out a little bit and we think, man, I can't see where the end is going to be. I'll be honest, I've been there. I worked when my news jobs, my sports jobs, even in my PR jobs that I had, I thought, man, I am, what am I going to do? I mean, I've looked for jobs even outside of both communications and news. I was looking at, working for a record company just as an assistant, or, maybe I would look outside and maybe I'll look as a groundskeeper or something, but because I was so I just felt like the hustle was going by me. But what I
Mhm.
did start to learn was that you do have to continue to work. You have to push, and it's going to hurt. It's not easy. But if you want to make something happen in your career, in school, right as you graduate, even out of school, you have to put the effort in. There are people that said, "Oh, I've got lucky. I've gotten jobs every time I've applied." Well, you know what? That's a rarity. There is
Mhm.
someone that is willing to help you. There is someone that is willing to put in a good word for you. Or what you need to do is show the work that you've done and show why they shouldn't why they should hire you and shouldn't pass you by. So
Right.
make sure while it may be called a side hustle and while you may be working at a job, make sure you're hustling the best that you can to get that job. Don't let yourself get outworked. I mean, we've just been using some sports analogies. Hey, you can bat ninth or you can bat eighth in the lineup, but no one is going to question you about batting in that position because you put in so much effort. You bust it down the line. You're hustling. Your uniform's dirty after after you're being on the base pass or after an inning in the field. Make sure that people recognize that you're working hard, even if it looks like those around you aren't, because that's the type of thing that will get you recognized. And that hustle will lead to something else that can really, if you don't want it to be a side hustle anymore, lead to something you can really enjoy.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
That's my emphasizing point. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Go do it.
let's
So
go.
that leads us into our slice of the week. We want to know what you either have done or are doing as a side hustle. We want to know so we can share that with other listeners. So let us know either what you have done as a side hustle while you were in school or what you are currently doing as a side hustle using the hashtag Pints Pizza Profs. So we want to hear from you. Let us know in this week's Slice of the Week.
Yeah, I want to.
Net.
I want to hear what the people have to say. This is really cool because there are so many ideas about side hustles. What are you doing? What do you think you could do?
Right.
What excites you? I mean, look at the both of us. I mean, we're not just sounding excited. We've gone this far with our ideas and our dreams and really side hustles to make it something that we can enjoy. What do
Hmm.
you think you can enjoy? There's plenty of things out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The world is your oyster, right?
That's right.
All right. That is all we have for this week's episode of Pints and Pizza with Professors. Next episode, we are speaking with Priya Doshi of American University on diversity and inclusion. This is a really, really important topic that we want to cover just in the climate that we're in these days in the United States. This is a good one. Priya is extremely knowledgeable in diversity and inclusion. And Jason, what is her title again? Refresh my memory.
She is our inclusion officer at American University in the School of Communication.
Yeah.
She's got a long career in public relations, a long career in communications, but she's also a great professor and a great educator. And she is more than uniquely qualified to discuss the topic, which is important not only on American University's campuses, as you said, also it's important in the country and around what was going on in students' perspectives, recent graduates. How does that affect the workforce? Priya will, and we'll all discuss that in our next episode, episode 3.
Episode 3, why it's cool to be different. So, so join our community at pintspizzaprofs.com. Jason, my friend, thank you so much.
I am always happy to have these conversations, and it has
Me
been
too.
great. I've enjoyed talking about show me the money, and maybe next time the OJs will play. But I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I am looking forward to seeing you again next week. So have a great week, and we'll see
You too.
everybody on episode 3.
Yeah. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of Pints and Pizza with Professors. If you like what you've heard today on the podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Also, connect with us on social, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. You know where to go, at Pints Pizza Profs. If you have a question, we'll answer it on the podcast. Use the hashtag Pints Pizza Profs.
Once again, I'm Megan Wagner.
And I'm Jason Mollica. Cheers.